What would you do if I abstracted tomorrow?
I'd move on. And probably forget about you.
To me, you're all toys, playthings I must annoy. Once I can see you frown, I know that I can take a bow.
A while back, I made a video talking about morally gray characters, with Jax being the main example of it, and it's amazing what a year and a half can really do with 4 episodes of actual character development. Now, what did I say in that video? There was a bit of a flash of a different character trait of Jax other than an asshole during the whole funeral scene. I'm sorry, but that's not enough for me to think that he's more than just an asshole. Is it a hint of him being deeper? Yeah, but until we actually see that death, that's all it is. A hint. Lo and behold, we actually got that death in between then and now. It's amazing how actually waiting for the development of a character can actively change the public opinion about said character. This is a problem with indie projects that release with massive breaks in between the chapters, that sometimes people will place their expectations and headcanons onto the characters and stories like a bad tattoo. And like a bad tattoo, once it's on there, it's going to be hard to remove that. But not impossible. We were already seeing the veil of Jax as a character slowly lifting in episode 5, actually allowing some vulnerability to be shown to the other characters and the audience.
What is this? Why'd you do that? Get that thing away from me.
With a funny side too. But what we really need to do is dive into the trope that this is talking about. So give me a few minutes of your time and let's dive into it. I'm MangaKamen, and let's begin. There's a pretty common trope in fiction that once I say it, I'm pretty sure you guys will have an example pop in your head. It's called never be hurt again. It's simple for a character trope, in which after an event, possibly tragic, a character vows to never suffer again to what happened before. Most appropriately in the case of Jax, it's never get close to another character again, since once you do, eventually they'll be taken away and leave you alone via abstraction. It's often used as a defense mechanism, which, surprise surprise, I talked about recently on the channel in regards to Pomni. I wonder if there's a running theme in this series. Defense mechanisms in the face of psychological turmoil. Who knows? Now, this trope, how it works, is that when a tragic event happens, the character who gets hurt will often evolve and make changes about themselves, and sometimes it's done for the worse even if there are positive effects being done. For another example, let's take a look at Virgil from the Devil May Cry series. After his human mother was killed by demons, a young Virgil was driven to never again become as helpless as he was, never wanting to feel the same pain ever again. No matter the cost, Virgil will do whatever it took to gain that power. Or Kazuma Kiryu from the Yakuza series, who has a bit of an aversion to this, since he doesn't want his loved ones to be hurt again, which after losing his best friend who was like a brother to him for most of his life, and losing the woman he loved due to his ties to the Yakuza, he distances himself from other people, going under an alias and even faking his death at one point just so his loved ones don't get targeted again. The Dragon of Dojima moniker was Kiryu's chain that weighed down those he cared about. Now, when you look at these motivations, and just the motivations alone, Jax not wanting to get hurt again, Virgil not experience the pain of loss again, Kiryu protecting his loved ones. On the surface, these are all pretty noble goals, especially when you consider that these are done with the fact that these choices were pretty much made in response to a form of traumatic loss. The loss of someone or people that they cared about. And that's basically the start of the trope, never to be hurt again. Obviously. But, as you can imagine, there's more to that. Especially when you consider the results of these choices, especially for the characters I just listed out. Virgil became obsessed with his goal of attaining power, even to the point where he was willing to make his own deal with a devil, only to be used by the man named Arkham.
Fear, evil. However, occasionally, a person may become seduced by evil,
leading him down a path that would open the demon world to the human world, eventually making him being brainwashed by the original series' Big Bad Mundus, and to be used as a puppet. And then when we get to Devil May Cry 5, we eventually see Virgil remove his humanity entirely in order to become stronger and become a full-on demon. In the example of Kiryu, yeah, he's distancing himself from his loved ones, but at great expense to his own personal mental health and then later physical health. It never really allows him to actually enjoy life and being with the people he truly cares about because of the guilt that his name carries with him. Not knowing that by pushing others away, Kiryu has subjected them to the same pain that he's hiding deep within himself. And with Jax, it's a similar thing, as we see him basically become a mean-spirited person, distancing himself from other people in order to not feel anything about someone who eventually will abstract, which is effectively a stand-in for death, which, unironically enough, is slowly leading to Jax going down a similar path, at least in my perception. And in case you didn't catch the underlying connection, this sort of behavior can be rather disastrous if continued in the long run. Much like how I brought up turtling in my Pomni video last time, which you guys should go watch, this is a short-term solution that if continued long-term can lead to some very serious issues. And Jax is a prime example of this, because his goal is to make sure he doesn't get close to anyone else, because sooner or later, they will abstract. They will turn into a monster and it will hurt to see someone get that fate. So characters will often take the path of least resistance in order to not be hurt or hurt others anymore. Remove their humanity, remove themselves from the picture, or remove any sort of connection they could make. And unfortunately, with characters like this, it's a tightrope walk with them, pushing away from someone who can get close to, even though it can and obviously does hurt in the long run. And in the meanwhile, the choices the character make can make them unlikable, not only to the main cast, but also to the audience. We do need to remember that even though Jax does have a reason for acting the way he does, that doesn't mean he's absolved of his choices and characteristics. I enjoy The Amazing Digital Circus. It has some very fun jokes and a cast of characters that I myself like.
I'm right behind you, aren't I?
But if I had to say something with a bit more of a critical view, the writing of the show has a bit of a more of a telling than showing problem. It's more of a lack of subtlety. That isn't to say there isn't subtle writing in it. And when you take into account Jax's speech about how everyone is an archetype,
Ragatha's the cheerful one, Gangle's the sad one,
and then when you see this scene,
Wow, I didn't actually think that.
that to me has a lot more subtle implications, showcasing that Jax really does believe in this speech about archetypes, revealing that behind that mask he gets angry when the cast breaks away from the roles he deemed for them to play. And you can even attribute this pretty much to his abusive behavior towards Gangle as a mark to that, or how Zuba will constantly lock horns with a purple rabbit, even to the point where they are willing to utterly humiliate the guy.
What the heck? Who did this?
Seems fitting for you, though. I figured you'd be into this.
what's that supposed to mean?
I'm just having fun. I forgot you hate fun. I have never seen you this upset about something.
I'm gonna kill you when this is over.
Still none of the twig boys. Need some more muscle definition for my taste. But while Jax was obviously hurt by the abstraction of someone close to him, that doesn't instantly absolve him of the things he does to others. He didn't really believe that what he was doing didn't have any consequences because...
Whether we like it or not, all we are now is a bunch of cartoon characters.
It's still more telling about this character because while there are straight up therapy sessions happening in episode 6, I find the actions that the characters take to be a bit more loud. Now, don't get me wrong, considering that we live in a time where people take whatever interpretations they want to have when it comes to characters, and will sometimes, if not often, take it to the most bad faith way possible, I don't blame writers for doing that. And it's not like we're getting this.
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry.
Because sometimes you actually do need to have your characters sit down and talk about things. Not do something like talk no jutsu, mind you, but you need to have your characters actually hash things out every once in a while. Is it subtle at times? No, but not everything does need to be subtle. Hell, not too long ago I talked about Kamen Rider Gav where I highlighted a part of the main characters literally having a fight. The guy who did the punching, Hanto, actually took the time to cool down and think things out logically, and it led to a conversation where the two characters were actually being honest with each other about their secrets and involved as people.
俺のせいだよな。グラニュート憎い。グラニュート全員ぶっ倒すって言いまくったから。
嫌われたくないって思ったんだ。
ごめん。ほんとダメだ俺。
I like subtlety in writing, but you can't just have subtlety for your writing, and sometimes you need to be expressly clear about things. It depends on what your audience to see and take from and what you want them to think about and understand. Because the best part of these characters, like Jax, is that, well, yeah, he's clearly got some issues that left some serious scars on his psyche. How he's coping with the situation isn't healthy.
Do you have any actual friends?
Not anymore.
And I've seen people say that there isn't subtlety in the writing of this show, considering how blatant the characters go about this. And while I agree that this is entirely on the nose at points, even more so with episode 6, I do disagree that there isn't any subtlety at all. There is subtext to be had in this show, but you can't just have subtext, you need to have text and subtext. And there's nothing wrong with the characters picking up on the subtext as well and calling it out. And while it's clear that Jax has his own coping mechanisms, a lot of that is up to interpretation, though there are things that a lot of people can't agree with. Jax is afraid of getting close to anyone, and he's slowly caring about Pomni, so he pushes her away. So, what do I think about this? I mean, you came for a video where I give my opinion on this sort of thing. Well...
Are you coming on to me?
Jax is a liar. Yes, I know, one of the most obvious statements in the world to ever say when concerning this guy. And to me, that's actually the key part of Jax's characterization. When you look at characters who are liars, it's always a tricky business, and an interesting way to look at them. Because sometimes liar-based characters don't just lie to the other members of the cast, but they also lie to themselves.
If you're planning to expose a liar, then you have to corner them psychologically. Only then will they reveal their true self as a liar, hiding beneath a layer of deceit!
They're fascinating to look at. Deception can be an excellent confliction, even if it's just self-deception. So let's take a moment and look at this.
You don't even know what people are like before they abstract. They are not pleasant to be around. Like at all!
It's easy to see that Jax does care for Pomni. The fact the two did bond in the latest episode proves that. I mean, how else do you explain them singing in sync?
You'll look sweet upon the seat of...
But when Jax gets into a fight with Pomni, it almost becomes... robotic, saying whatever he could to avoid showing that he did connect with her. Hell, you can even see this with his expressions and animations. It's almost like he's trying to turn off his emotions just so he can keep being mean to her. And when he drops that line about how Pomni doesn't know how people are before they abstract, it's very telling about him. His relationship to a character Ribbit must have ended in less than stellar way before Ribbit abstracted. A fight, or maybe even Jax abandoned Ribbit? Really hard to tell since, well, we barely know anything about Ribbit. Regardless, it's easy to see that Jax blames himself for that. He blames himself for Ribbit's abstraction, and the only way he can actually cope with this situation and not actually feel that pain again, well, he lies to himself. Jax knows that he connected with Pomni, and when we get this exchange...
What would you do if I abstracted tomorrow?
I'd move on. And probably forget about you.
We know it's a lie. When Ragatha pointed out that Jax didn't have any friends anymore, he certainly cared enough to get mad. Or that scene where we see him looking at Ribbit's door. If he really didn't care, if he just moved on, why even have these scenes? Why react to Ragatha's comment? And it's clear that Jax is lying not only to Pomni, but himself, obviously. And in order to exacerbate that lie, he lashes out against everyone, poking and prodding, acting like a total jackass. It's a farce that Jack needs to feed into for himself, and he takes it too far. It's a means to downplay any sort of connection with anyone, and when you really examine the choice of words,
I'd move on.
You'd move on? Why would you need to move on if you didn't care about the person? If you don't care about someone, you don't need to move on. They wouldn't mean anything to you. If anything, it's a form of projection. Which, while not an inherent form of lying, it's commonly used with lying to attribute someone's own unacceptable thoughts onto another. It's another defense mechanism, and while it's not a full-on form of deception, it's a component of manipulative behavior. Though it should be known that liars can use this as a defensive mechanism, still, it's going to have an effect. It's why when we see Jax having a panic attack, even though he was yelling at Pomni, he was more or less trying to convince himself of what he was saying. Jax certainly hates himself, and it's clear he wants everyone to hate him too, because deep down, Jax believes he deserves this fate, and he regrets what he has to do, but he keeps doing it, since to him, it's the only way he can stop the pain of losing someone again. The logic being, it's better to never have loved and lost. It's better than accepting the truth in his eyes, denying anything and everything.
Why do you guys hate lies that much? There's only one truth, but endless possibilities for lies, you know? And some of them are only white lies, or lies to be kind to people. If you deny all of that just because it's a lie, then that means you guys are just terrible at being lied to! Seriously, the worst!
Characters like that, who push others away and lie to protect themselves, I find them fascinating. After all, lying is human instinct. Everyone has told a lie here and there to protect themselves or others. It's part of being human, and it's a flaw that we need to accept. I do want to wrap this up by saying that even though this does explain Jax's actions and choices as a character, this is in no way a healthy thing to do. It's a reason, not an excuse. And this does need to be explained because, like it or not, there are people out there who will lie on this scale as a defensive mechanism for their personal benefit, not caring who they hurt in the process. What Jax does in the Amazing Digital Circus, yeah, to us it can be entertaining, but to the characters it can be a terrible time in a situation that is ultimately made even worse by this choice of his. It's fine not to like Jax. It's fine to think the guy deserves a proper ass-kicking with the way he's been acting. The guy certainly is asking for a whooping.
of an internet spew of trivia and celebrity bullshit! Fuck American pride! Fuck the media! Fuck all of it!
But abstraction? I think that's a little too far. Jax is a horrible person, and while I disagree that Jax is a morally gray character even to this day, I like to think that he falls more in line with a character who's struggling to keep his head above water, doing what he can to maintain himself, even if he has to lie to everyone and even himself. Clearly, it's not impossible to reach the guy. Pomni was able to draw out the human side of this demented rabbit because, despite what he says,
There's nothing more to me. So please, just stop looking.
his actions and words betray him. There are hidden depths to him. They're just covered up by lie after lie that he desperately wants to believe so he can make the pain go away, not realizing all he's doing is inflicting a different kind of pain onto himself. A pain of loneliness, seclusion, walking a lonely road, and one that ends with a tragedy. Well, that was certainly sad. How do I end this?
I want the ability to have sex.
Nice choice there. In any case, I appreciate you guys for watching, and if you made it to the end of this video, please consider leaving a comment, a like, and share the video around. And if you want to support the channel more directly, I have a Patreon, Ko-Fi, and have channel memberships activated. It helps me make more of these videos and lets me know what kind of content you want to see in the future. In any case, I'm MangaKamen. Thanks for watching. Later.